Hello everyone. Today's lesson is about addition and subtraction of decimal numbers. We are going to learn this lesson through these four examples. So let's start with the first operation, 267.32 plus 67.4. Of course, adding numbers is very easy, but adding decimal numbers, the most important step to follow first is to set up the operation correctly. So if I want to set up this operation, first I copy the first number, 267.32. Now the next step is very important. How do I set up the second number? The first and very important step is to place the decimal point below the decimal point. So I place the decimal point of 67.4 below the decimal point of the number 267.32. Now I place the digits in the decimal part. 4 is the 10th digit. I place it below the 10th. I don't place it below the 2 because 2 is the 100th digit. I place the 10th digit below the 10th digit. Now I continue placing the digits in the whole part. 67, 7 is the 1st digit, I place it below the 7, and the 10th digit I place it below the 10th digit. If you want to make it clear for you, these empty places, we can replace them by zeros. Now, once I set up my operation correctly, now I add them. I start, of course, adding the digits from right to left. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 4 is 7. Now the decimal point, I copy it below the decimal point. Then I start adding the digits in the whole part. 7 plus 7 is 14. 4 I carry 1. 6 plus 6, 12, plus 1, 13. I write 3. I carry 1. And 1 plus 2 plus 0 is 3. So as you notice here, the most important step is to set up the operation correctly. Everything else is very easy. Now let's continue with the second operation. Here we are adding three numbers. The first number is 6,324. It's not a decimal point, it's a comma, so it's a whole number. Plus 78.321 plus 6.8. Here we must pay attention to something very important, that in a whole number, the decimal part is 0. So this number is in fact 6,324 point. I can add useless zeros as much as I want. But since we have in the second number 3 digits after the point, so in this number we are going to use 3 useless zeros. So we add 3 useless zeros before setting up the operation. So we write 6,324.000. I added 3 useless zeros because in my second number I have 3 digits in the decimal part, 3 digits after the point. Now second step is to place the second number correctly. I place decimal point below decimal point. Now the decimal part is 321, 3/10, 200th, and 1,000th. Now 78 I placed in the whole part. I place the ones below the ones and the tens digit below the tens digit. And my other digits here are zeros. Now I place the third number, 6.8. I place decimal point below decimal point. 8 is the 10th digit. I place it below the 10th. So I don't start from left to right. So the most important thing is to place decimal point below the decimal point. And 6 is the 1st digit. Now I add the numbers. If you want, you can replace the empty space by zeros. 0 plus 1 plus 0 is 1. 0 plus 2 plus 0 is 2. 8 plus 3 plus 0, 11, 1, I carry 1. So here if you notice something, I don't write 11, no, I carry 1 to the whole part above the ones digit. Now decimal point, I place it below the decimal point. 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 6, 19. 9 and I carry 1. 1 plus 2 plus 7 is 10. 0 I carry 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. I put the comma and 6. So, comma 6. So the answer is 6,409.121. Now let's continue with our next part of the lesson, how to subtract two decimal numbers. When they give us a subtraction operation, the first number is always greater than the second number. So even if you have in this number 5 digits, it doesn't mean that this number is greater than the first number, no. Because in fact, to compare decimal numbers, we compare first their whole parts. 923 is greater than 23. So this number is greater than this second number. So always the first number is always the greatest number. So when we set up this operation, as we did here, we copy the first number, 923.7. Now we need to set up the second number. I place decimal point below the decimal point. But in the second number, I have 3 digits after the point. 2 is the 10th, I place it below the 7. And 1 and 4, I write them after the 2. So here, above the 1 and 4, I place useless zeros. I can add useless zeros because 923.7 is in fact 923.700. So I need to add useless zeros in order to have in both numbers same number of digits in the decimal part. 3 digits, 3 digits. Now let's set up the whole part in the second number. 3 is the ones digit and 2 is the tens digit. And the hundreds digit is 0. Now let's start our subtraction. 0 minus 4. 0 is less than 4. I need to borrow. So I cannot borrow from 0. I borrow from 70. 70 plus minus 1 is 69. The one I borrowed, I give it to 0. It's 10. Now 10 minus 4 is 6. So when you borrow here in any subtraction operation, you don't go all the way. You work step by step. Now 9 minus 1 is 8. And 6 minus 2 is 4. Now decimal point, I place it below decimal point. 3 minus 3 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. And 9 minus 0, it's 9. So the answer is 900.486. Now let's continue with our fourth and last example. 3,201 minus 448.23. So 3,201 is a whole number. So its decimal part is 0. So it's in fact point. I add useless zeros as much as needed. Since here in the second number I have 2 digits in the decimal part, so I need to add 2 useless zeros in order for my setup to be easy. So let's start setting up by writing the first number, 3,201, and I add 0.00. So this step is very important because when I want to set up the second number, I need to place first decimal point below the decimal point. Then I place the decimal part 10th below the 10th and 100th below the 100th. Now I place my whole part ones below ones. 5 is the tens digit and 4 is the hundreds digit. and if you want, you can add a 0. The thousands digit is 0 here. Then I start my subtraction. 0 minus 3, 0 is less than 3, so I cannot borrow from 0, I borrow from 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. So how do I write the 9 here? I write 0, 9. Because if I write the 9 here and the 0 here, it will be 90. And 10 minus 1 is not 90, is 9, 0, 9. Now the one I borrowed, I give it to the 0, becomes 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 2 is also 7. So I'm working step by step. Decimal point below the decimal point. Now 0 minus 8, 0 is less than 8, so I need to borrow from the 0, but I cannot. So I borrow from 20. 20 minus 1 is 19, so the 20 becomes 19, and the one I borrowed, I give it to 0. 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Now 9 minus 5 is 4. 1 minus 4, 1 is less than 4. I need to borrow. 3 becomes 2, and the 1 becomes 11. 11 minus 4, it's 7. I copy the comma, and 2 minus 0 is 2. And the answer is 2742.77.